Program. Joining me right now is Comrade Alfred Kemepado, former Secretary General at Ijaw Youth Council worldwide. He just told me that it's worldwide, and I asked, why worldwide? How many Ijaws do we have that are worldwide? But that's just a joke. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Before I come over to you with a questioning, let's quickly take this excerpt from the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources when he was briefing newsmen after the FEC meeting where the government did approve $1.5 billion fund for the rehabilitation of Port Harcourt Refinery. I wonder, rehabilitation, turnaround, what are the differences? Those are two English words that I've heard from the Ministry of Petroleum in recent times. Let's quickly take Timipre Silva.
The Ministry of Petroleum Resources presented a memo on the rehabilitation of Port Harcourt Refinery for the sum of $1.5 billion, and that memo was $1.5 billion, and it was approved by Council today. So we're happy to announce that the rehabilitation of Port Harcourt Refinery will commence forthwith. It is in 3 phases. The first phase is to be completed in 18 months, which will take the refinery to a production of 90% of its nameplate capacity. The second phase is to be completed in 24 months, and the final stage will be completed in 44 months. And Council graciously approved, and I believe that this is good news for Nigerians, that the rehabilitation of our refineries have commenced.
That was Timipre Silva, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources. Comrade Kemepado is still with me here. Why do you think that even after what the minister said a few days ago, that is still generating controversies? Many Nigerians are saying $1.5 billion rehabilitation for Port Harcourt Refinery. First, why should it be done? Secondly, we spent so much money on turnaround maintenances over the years and nothing is still being seen. You know, so why do you think it's still generating controversy?
I think it's consequent upon the trust deficit that has been built over the years, you know, and it's not peculiar with just this industry. It's peculiar with, you know, the general happenings in governance in Nigeria. But you see, my appeal is that we don't get distracted by the past, because we need to, at every point in time, move forward. That $1.5 billion is voted to turn around, maintain, or revamp the refinery is good news. It's good news in the sense that $1.5 billion is above 220 billion Nigerian naira, if I have my mathematics right today. And one of the major things that has hindered our growth in this country, especially in current times, it is subsidy in petroleum products. So, considering the amount of money that has been spent subsidizing petroleum products in the past, which translates to mean that over this recent past or long past, jobs have been exported out of this country. By that I mean, if we have been subsidizing petroleum products, it means that petroleum products have been refined out of this country, outside this country. It has been creating jobs in other places. But at this particular point in time, if we are putting our refineries in place, it means we are going to have those jobs in country. And apart from the fact that we are going to have those jobs in country, within this process of maintaining the refineries, jobs are going to be created around the country, especially in River State and its environs where this maintenance is going to take place. So I think the uprise basically because of the trust deficit that is consequent upon these kind of projects that are taking place in the park that have not seen the daylight.
The question a lot of Nigerians will ask is that for those kind of projects that have taken place over the past that we have not seen daylight, according to you, have we been able to even probe, the process?
Okay.
Because we're not just talking about our resources or our assets. We're talking about billions of naira also being put into that process, or into the turnaround maintenance or what have you. Though I heard the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources say at a time that the original refinery manufacturers did say that they are not going to rehabilitate because they are not into the business of rehabilitation. I think he said it in one of those his outings. So why do you think that after all this time, people are beginning to say, okay, turnaround maintenance, why do we need it at this time and all of that, since we have done it in the past and nothing came out of it and we're not refining?
So are we suggesting that the refinery should not be put in place and we should not develop an in-country refining capacity? That's not what we should say. Probably what we should encourage civil society, especially the Nigerian Labour Congress, to do at this particular point in time is to begin to interrogate the process of the award and every process that will lead to revamping these refineries to ensure that it doesn't go the way others went. That others went bad does not mean we can on the go from now say this is going to go bad. No, that I don't think that is a positive way of approaching national development. So for it not to go like others, is the essence of an organization like the Nigerian Labour Congress is not just at the turn of a government policy that is not good. You just turn around and say strike, shut down the country, no matter the cost. No. Asking for excellence, asking for the proper execution of government policies is also part of our duties, also part of execution.
I've spoken to labor leaders at least in the last 2 weeks. I spoke to one last week. I spoke to one, I think, in the last few weeks, though, and over the issue of fuel subsidy and all of that. And what they did tell me here on the show was that they would like subsidy to go, but they would like the refineries to start working.
Okay.
They were also in tandem with what you said in terms of that if we are importing fuel from overseas, we are exporting our jobs. So the refineries have got to work.
Yeah.
So at this point, the next question would be right now, do you think that the economics of the rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt Refinery makes sense? Because if you take a look at the Port Harcourt Refinery, I think it's the biggest refinery we have because we have two, 60,000 capacity and one other one, 150,000, I think, making 210,000. So do you think that the economics of it outweighs the uproar and the cries that we're seeing or the controversies?
Definitely so. You see, all over like when America had a problem when Obama just came in, what did the American government do? They voted monies into the major car manufacturers and other companies. What was the essence of that? Was it not to ensure that industries are liquid, jobs are created? Now, if 1.5 billion is voted in country, okay, as opposed to when we were spending even much more than that, importing petroleum products from outside, bringing it in country to cost this turnaround maintenance, it's not only going to help to reposition the refinery to begin to refine in country, but within the process of revamping is going to create jobs. And when you talk about any form of insecurity in the Niger Delta, first, the cause of any form of insecurity in the Niger Delta is unemployment. Let's not deceive ourselves, okay? So this is also going to help to see how it can create more jobs around the environment. Now, let me give you even the presidential amnesty program that has some ex-agitators. This is an opportunity for the NNPC and other related industries with respect to see how they can begin to train some of these ex-agitators to fit into the job opportunities that will come out of this process, including the community. So if you look at it, it's a win-win. So, but I think the uproar is just because of the trust deficit.
The funds management, or is it just only the trust deficit? How about the management of the funds? And also the controversy around, okay, we might borrow some money from the for the $1.5 billion adding to our national debt.
No, let me tell you something. I'm not an economics, but what I know from established economics is if you are not borrowing at any point in time to fund luxury and unproductive ventures, as far as you are borrowing to fund productive ventures, as they say, that can even pay for itself, there's nothing wrong about that, okay? Even America borrows. But it's just that, like they say, when we borrow here, the project that is borrowed for, sometimes funds are allegedly diverted. That's just a problem. But if funds are borrowed, I'm not promoting it, I'm not an advocate of the borrowing, but if borrowing funds to revamp our refineries, to increase our in-country production that will retain jobs here and make the petroleum products available to the extent that we will have enough to begin to export to the sub-Saharan Africa and satisfy other goods that will create more jobs for us, then it's in good light. But you see, I don't want to be lost in the point. This is where the Nigerian Labour Congress has to come with another form of agitation called the demand for excellence. This is the time they have to set up whatever committee they call themselves to interrogate the process, to ensure that this one does not go like the others, so that Nigeria will be better off after all.
How about the agitation around refineries as strategic assets supposed to be sold? And how would you describe perhaps the business model of operate and maintain model for the Port Harcourt Refinery, which I mentioned earlier, has I think the biggest capacity. We have two in Port Harcourt, we have one in Warri, we have one in Kaduna. So how about for those saying sell refineries? Where do you stand on that and the model of operate and maintain for the Port Harcourt Refinery?
Every of the models that will at the end of the day make us more productive is welcome. But when you talk about sell the refineries, I guess the proponents of that are talking about or advances this whole say about government does not have to be in business, okay? But you see, another thing we must also look at is that there are also those who had private licenses for private refineries. I think about 18 or so. And out of the 18, it's just about 2, which is the Dangote Refinery and the Walter Smith that is coming about. So instead of, shooting the sky, we can also continue to ask other questions like, how can government come up with funds to support the existing licenses if they have not expired, to see how they can manufacture optimally to add to what is already existing.
So from your own analysis, I can gather that you're saying that the economic benefits of Port Harcourt Refinery to the nation's economy outweighs all this hue and cry that we're seeing, and the NLC should now be more involved in terms of knowing how the funds will be utilized. Obviously
so, because it's not doing this country any good that we're importing petroleum products. That's a given. Secondly, the only way we can stop importing petroleum products is for us to refine in country. That's a given too. Then secondly, when you begin to refine in country, it reduces the pressure on the dollar, because most of the pressure on our foreign exchange is this petroleum stuff, It reduces that pressure. Thirdly, it's going to create the jobs that we have been exporting and make the products available, and not just available. Over time, it's going to be competitive. Look at it. See the telecommunication sector, for example, that is in country, that has created not just the major jobs that is in the telecommunication sector, but the pockets of jobs. You see, let me say this. What is happening today is something that has been debated years ago. But you see, people politicized it. Okay, look at Nigerian Labour Congress. We shut down this country because prices of fuel went up to about 97 naira. Today we want to go on strike that the prices of fuel should go back to 162 or 163. So the question I ask is, at what point in time is 163 better than 97 naira? I am saying this to say that until we cure this problem from its root, we will still be in it. So the way to go is develop this in-country refining capacity, let the federal government, as it's doing now, support it to the much it can so that, you know, the forces of demand and supply, market forces, as you may say, over time can make the product available, can also help to stabilize price. But most importantly, it's not even the price of the petroleum product, is that we will be able to refine in country, so we may not have to spend the kind of money we spend outside the country importing petroleum products, which directly devalues our naira.
Now, what area or what do you expect from government? Since there's been so much hue and cry and controversy around this rehabilitation, government seems not to be trusted. What do you expect government right now to do in terms of the area of transparency? Because it seems that Nigerians have the feeling that government is not transparent enough in their dealings. A lot of people allegedly siphon government funds in various business undertakings. That's one. The other aspect of my question is, do you think that a different approach should be taken this time around the Port Harcourt Refinery rehabilitation from the approaches we've seen before?
The approach may not have been the problem. Is that expression of sincerity of purpose. Okay? So what I'm expecting government to do, that is why, you see, when you say government is not Muhammadu Buhari.
No, but there are people in charge of government. There are people in Ministry of Petroleum Resources. There's a Temipre over there. There's a Mele Kyari. You are not seated in that office. You don't see what happens every day. Same with me.
Well, maybe that's what I was about to say. What I was about to say is government is not Muhammadu Buhari only. Government is not Temipre Silva. Government is not Mele Kyari. Government also involves beyond you and I, including the Nigerian Labour Congress. Okay?
Why? Okay.
So what I'm trying to say is that everybody should come together this time to do a bit, to hold to account, because it's a critical part of our national development. Okay? We are getting it wrong, and many other things are going wrong. Okay? So this component of it, everybody should take responsibility and question and continue to interrogate. Even you in the media, maybe you may have to spend more time interrogating these issues, bringing it to the fore, just to ensure that it doesn't go wrong. I'm not defiling the fact that at the end of the day, the President, Commander-in-Chief, and his direct appointees,
the Minister of Petroleum,
and his direct appointees, such as the Minister of Petroleum, MD, they also need to deploy everything they can, including the sincerity, transparency, and everything you can go to ensure that it doesn't go the other way around. Because when it's bad for everybody.
I think we'll leave it at that. You know, while I was thinking of this program this morning before I came into the office, I saw Saudi Aramco of Saudi Arabia declaring about $75 billion of dividends.
Okay.
That news came up, I think, earlier this morning. When I saw that, I said, oh, when can we get to this level? $75 billion in dividends, and most of that dividend will go back to the Saudi government. Good, but that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Comrade Alfred Kemepado.
Yeah, that's my name.
For joining us today.
Thank you.
As the former Secretary General, Ijaw Youth Council, we've been looking at the $1.5 billion Port Harcourt Refinery. I will tell you, this is not the last of it. As you've said, we'll continue to interrogate.
Please.
And we'll continue to ask the necessary questions, and we hope that we'll get the right answers. Thank you for watching our video. Please hit the subscribe button below, turn on post notification to follow all our updates.